Hi everybody, I want to wish everybody a happy new year, but I also want to usher in the new year by jumping on one of these vinyl tags. Seems like there's a bunch going around. There's the official 2026 vinyl tag. I think Glenn Calloway or somebody came out with the 2026 cassette tag, but the one that piqued my interest the most was from one of my neighbors to the north, the Great White North, Northern vinyl guy. He just came out with a Canadian vinyl tag, which I thought was absolutely adorable.
I am a few days shy of my the start of my third year in the VC, so this is exciting. So what I'm going to do is I am going to post the 16 prompts down below. So like I said, I'm going to have 16 prompts and you can try them out, make your own video and hopefully you can come up with 16 albums of your own to meet these prompts.
And in this video, I'm going to be having a lot of fun at the expense of my Canadian brothers up north. Canadians have an excellent sense of humor, so I'm not worried they're going to take this the wrong way. So don't take this the wrong way if you're from Canada.
Go fuck yourself, man. What a douchebag.
One of the things I will tell you about any Canadian channel that I've watched is they feel that they constantly have to remind you which bands and artists are from Canada. Like, hey, April Wine, Coney Hatch, Kim Mitchell, Max Webster, Triumph. All these bands, like, we get it. We've heard of them. Rush, Bryan Adams. Yeah, we know. Gordon Lightfoot. We know they're from Canada.
The lickety sail never gives up, it did when the skies of November turn gloomy.
You can stop reminding us already. I don't know of any other country that is constantly waving their flag on their videos. Like, don't forget about our music over here.
What exactly does Canada want?
Like, we know, and kind of like patting them on the head. Yes, we know. It's so adorable. You have some great artists over here. Yes, they're really good. They really are. Canada's got some great artists. One of my favorite bands of all time, the Guess Who, are from Canada. I love the band, and most of those guys came from Canada, or at least one or two, or at least three members of the band came from Canada. So yeah, you got us there. Absolutely. Canadian bands are great.
Go fuck yourself.
Or at least very good.
Brian Campbell was talking about the fighting in Lebanon.
Anyway, on to the, what do we call this? On to the Canadian tag now.
So I hear you're from Canada.
Yeah.
How's it going, eh?
So the first question or the first item, and these are all, by the way, about stereotypes. And again, you know, if we're going to be knocking America, you say stereotype to most American YouTubers, and they're going to be like Pioneer, Sony, Samsung, JVC. That's the American intellect for you. See, I can throw shade on Americans too. But anyway, it's a stereotype. Like these Canadian, and maybe if you don't live near Canada, you're not quite as aware of some of these stereotypes.
I thought all they had up in Canada were lumberjacks and curlers.
And I gotta feel several of these hit very close to home to some of our Canadian YouTubers out there. So I'll try to be as sensitive as possible. But anyway, the first item that he wants us to address is show a folk album or a Pioneer album. I don't know what the fuck a Pioneer album is, but I will show a folk album. I only own a couple, and they're all by this artist, Bob Dylan. I'm sorry here about the lighting issues, okay? I've got this little ambiance going here, and I won't go into too detail, but I got my sister-in-law living with us right now, and she took one of the lamps out of my room, which used to really light up my little video making space here. So that's why I'm down to this thing over here. And it's morning, so it's not quite daylight yet, so I don't have the advantage of natural sunlight. So I do apologize for that. So hate on me in the comment section.
A dick-sucking fucking asshole.
This is Bob Dylan. Is that a little bit better? This is Bob Dylan's second album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. I've always loved that picture image of him strolling through what I presume to be Greenwich Village Village with his girl on his arm, looking very much 1963, pre-JFK assassination, 1963. And I'm not a huge fan of folk music. I do like kind of the electric folk of that 1965 period, but they got classics here. Blowin' in the Wind, Girl from the North Country, which of course he would cover his own cover version that he would do on Nashville Skyline with Johnny Cash. Masters of War, again, which is another classic topical song, but some classic love ballads here as well. I guess if you could call them love ballads. Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. They're not all like protest songs. That one's great. Karina, Karina, which is a cover song. I absolutely love that one. A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall is another one of those like timeless Bob Dylan protest classics. But yeah, very cool. But you know, probably near the end of his folk period, but still the only folk album that I own. The next thing he wants us to show is an album that makes you think of the cold or something to do with the cold, because of course we know Canada, for the most part, is a frozen wasteland, especially this time of year. I mean, it's been freaking unbelievably cold here since the end of Christmas. And so I can't imagine how cold it is up in Canada, especially some of the northern parts of Canada. But the only one that kind of immediately came to mind, and it's more the artwork, not necessarily the music evokes the cold or anything like that. But this is Echo and the Bunnymen and their third album, Porcupine. And I love that like snowy scene there. I don't know where they are, but you've almost got like this frozen waterfall or something like that. Again, I'm sorry the image is not coming up super clear, but it is what it is. I apologize. But yeah, I don't show much Echo and the Bunnymen on my channel. I'm not sure exactly why. This has The Cutter and Back of Love. Those are the two singles off of here. But I like Gods Will Be Gone, Heads Will Roll. And, you know, if you were to, like, what does Echo and the Bunnymen sound like? A little bit gothic, kind of like that early 80s new wave, kind of like, I think they were very much inspired by Joy Division. So anyway, check out Echo and the Bunnymen if you have not yet.
My name is William Shatner, and I am Canadian!
The next item is show me an album that is associated with a Jimmy, Sally, or Susie. I do not know why. I can't remember. There's some Canadian commercial that addresses the stereotype. And honestly, I did watch the video, but there's so many questions, so many items. I don't remember the genesis of why these items are what they are. So it was show me an album with a Jimmy, Sally, or Susie, or a Tom, Dick, Harry, or Joe. I'm going to go with Jimmy, because I can't think of any that would match any of the other names, but not necessarily by Jimmy. But this is Wings at the Speed of Sound, and you got Jimmy McCulloch here, who was the lead guitarist, this guy here with the acne.
Jimmy, how old are you? Do you want to answer that?
Well, I was 23 last week.
23. And how long have you been in this crazy business?
Professionally? Well, I've turned professional when I was 15. I've been playing for 4 years.
And he unfortunately passed away. He overdosed, even though he's got like 2 songs cautioning about substance use.
Is that fucked up or what?
He had Wino Junko on this album, and then he had Medicine Jar off the previous album, which was Venus and Mars. And then tragically, he didn't follow his own advice, and very unfortunately, because he was so young, I think he was a member of Thunderclap Newman before he joined Wings. But in any event, I think this was the last Wings album to feature Jimmy McCulloch. Okay, and by the way, there's 16 different items. I was just like looking back again. There's 16 different items he wants us to show. No fucking way. I'm not going to be sitting here pulling records all goddamn day, especially on the weekend. So I'm not sure how many of these I'm going to get through. But if this video stops abruptly, that's the reason why.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
I just kind of lost interest, or I'm just not going to be I just don't get into these like, 15, 16, 17 items in either a thread or a tag or a content. Like, I'm just not. It's not going to happen. So anyway, I'm continuing along, but just as I'm thinking to myself, like, ain't no fucking way this is going to be a 2-hour video. So anyway, the next one he wants us to show is an album or song that's got some kind of political bent or politically leaning kind of an album or song. And again, the one that immediately came to mind was off Cream's Wheels of Fire. There's a song Politician on here, which is kind of like this lumbering song. And not my favorite track on the album, but, it is what it is. I love Jack Bruce's vocals on these songs. But this was the Cream's double album. You got one disc, which is studio tracks, and the second disc, which is all live stuff. But Politician is on obviously the studio side. And of course, a lot of people were writing politically themed or protest songs back in this period, which was 1968. But this is one of the better ones to my way of thinking. So that's why I chose this one. Okay, the next item is show an album with a boot or a shoe, some kind of footwear on it. And the reason for that is Canadians, as part of their dialect, as part of their speech pattern, they pronounce about
oot and a boot.
A boot. And that's why this particular item is here. But anyway, I was like looking through and I'm just like, if I got to spend more than 5 minutes hunting for a record, I'm just going to pick the easiest one. And so again, the first one that kind of came to mind, I don't have any that have like a boot prominently featured. So I did pick Meet the Beatles, because right there, of course, you have those Cuban heeled boots that the Beatles were known for. And I got to show a Beatles album somewhere in this particular tag. So I chose Meet the Beatles for that one. The next item is show an album that matches the color scheme of the Canadian flag, which of course is red and white. And again, these are albums that immediately spring to mind for me. And who better exemplifies red and white than the White Stripes? This is their album, Elephant. And most people, if you're familiar with this record, it's because you've heard Seven Nation Army. But there's some great, real bluesy workouts here. Ball and Biscuit is a great one. The Hardest Button to Button is fantastic. I really like There's No Home for You here. I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself, which is a cover version. But this is a great, probably like the gateway. If you were to give anybody a White Stripes album to get them into the band, it would probably be this one, I would imagine, or White Blood Cells, maybe. But can't go wrong with any of the White Stripes. They got 6 studio albums, if I'm not mistaken, and they're all excellent, but this one happens to be my favorite. The next one is show an album or song that exemplifies peace. Show the Cult Electric, their 3rd studio album, I believe this was, and this has the song Peace Dog on it, which is very much kind of in that whole 60s mentality of peace and love. In fact, this album itself was going to be called Peace at one time, the original studio sessions, and they ended up going with Mutt Lange as their producer instead, totally revamped their sound, and as a result, you have this classic album, but Peace Dog is going to be the one that I pick for that particular item. All right, I'm not doing any more of these. I think I've done enough. What was that, like 8? I think that's pretty generous, doing half of them. But anyway, check out Northern Vinyl Guy. Fantastic channel. You won't be sorry, eh? All right, take care.